my 12 secret tips for writing a great journal article? Stick around and I'm going to share all 12 with you today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy and personal academic mentor, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, coming at you to be able to discuss what I believe to be the 12 secret tips for writing a great journal article. Now, if you want the most in-depth, step-by-step, template-based course online, over 20 hours of incredible content, all taught by me, you can find it down here at publicationacademy.com. Get a 7-day free trial, watch a couple of the modules. I think you're going to find huge value in it. You're going to love becoming a member. So let's go ahead and get right into it. What are kind of my 12 secret tips? I'll mention each of them, and then probably for a bunch of them, I'm going to go ahead and riff and kind of give you a little bit more content, right? So Number one is to start with a clear and concise research question or objective. At the end of the day, when you are starting to be able to write your piece, when you're starting to conduct the piece in the first place, obviously you need a really clear research question or objective, but you need to basically give the narrative of how you got there. How did you get from A to B? What's the problem in the field, right? What do we already know about the problem? What are the problems with what we know? What are you going to do about it, right? Like all of these things, right? And then what is that specific research question or objective? This is really, really key. I would say it needs to be established in paragraph 1 of your introduction. I don't care if your intro is 4 pages, 4 paragraphs, or 40 pages. You need to do that, all right? Same thing in terms of providing some kind of a thorough literature review so that the reader can understand the existing work in the field. I just said, usually this happens in the introduction section. I would say it kind of has to, even though you'll reference some literature, particularly in the discussion as well. And you may contextualize some methods in the methods section too. Usually that's what you're finding stuff, right? In terms of references to things. But what I will say is that in the intro, it's really important, like I said, to be able to say, here's the big problem, but here's what we know about it. That lit review could be really short because there's not a lot of primary studies or secondary research on your topic, which could suggest that this is an important area to look into. Could also suggest that no one cares, just so you know, right? But the other thing about it is that there could be a ton of research literature. Then you need to figure out how to be able to organize it. In Publication Academy, we go over all this like in depth and how to fix every single problem here. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to clearly define and operationalize any key terms and variables that are going to be used. I know that it's tempting to assume, I get this, and the younger that I was, the more I thought this, that every individual who read my research would kind of just know about the jargon I was using. And I don't mean jargon just like an acronym like HCR20, but also things like structured professional judgment, unstructured professional judgment. I just assumed people knew what I was talking about, but they didn't. You do want your article to an extent, depending on how high specificity the journal is. The more general the journal, the more general your language needs to be. The more high specificity the journal, the more high specificity your language can be. And I reckon that you will agree with me that that makes sense, right? So defining key terms the first times that they're used, and then defining variables, that again is going to be in your methods section, is going to be really, really key because other people may not know what you're talking about. Certain variables in different studies get defined totally different ways. For example, what counts as like an arrest versus a charge versus a conviction versus incarceration in the United States is totally different than in a lot of Western European countries. And of course, I've worked at both in Western Europe as well as in the United States so that I would know. You can trust me on this one, okay? So next, right, is number 4, which is to use appropriate research methods to collect valid and reliable data. This is something that I harp on in other, Navigating Academia videos. It is just so incredibly important that you become a master of research methods and statistical analysis and the display of your results in these articles, right? So that this way, other individuals who read your piece, especially young people, my gosh, guys, if you publish something and the methods and the stats are poor, a young person reads it, they're going to assume that the way that you told them to do it is the way to do it. It's like a massive game of telephone until finally a good method is bastardized into a method that it's like barely recognizable. I have people cite my stuff all the time, right, who are just citing something that I didn't say. And I'll call them and be like, why did you say that? Didn't you see or whatever on this page that this is the antithesis of what I said? And they'll be like, to be honest with you, I just cited a citation of of yours, somebody else cited in a different paper. I read that paper, they cited you, so I just used it. That's this giant game of telephone, okay? And this is, like I said, this phenomenon of cite the citation. Not good. Number 5 is to present findings in a clear and organized manner. I'm telling you, elegant writing will get you everywhere. Think about it like taking a pitcher of water and pouring it down a set of stairs. It's very fluid, but it is also very stepped. Okay, it's an organized manner. And again, you can do this in a lot of ways. Sometimes you're using tables and figures or graphs as they're needed. Never have any of those if they're not absolutely necessary. Yeah, some tables and figures and graphs are beautiful, but if they're superfluous, they're not needed, don't include them, y'all. Okay, they make you look silly. You should see my first publication. I give examples in that Publication Academy module on, oh my gosh, on results and tables and figures. If you want to just watch my shame, watch that module, and you will see me give examples, screenshots from my first ever publication. It is so bad. It is so bad, y'all. You just have to trust me. Number 6. Avoid over-interpreting results and make sure to discuss limitations and future directions. You're going to do this in the discussion section. That's where this is. When I say make sure to discuss limitations, you basically have to. If you have not, and I'm the peer reviewer, most people are peer reviewers, they're going to call that out. Okay, but I really love limitations insofar as you can be like, hey, listen, limitation that we had right now is that we had a small sample size, statistical power was limited. That said, in future studies, because we recognize that the findings because of this are probably preliminary in nature, this should be considered a pilot, and in the future they should, do more studies to be able to cross-validate the findings with larger sample sizes. Boom. You could just literally copy that down, and that would be a great thing to say if you end up having a small sample size. That literally will get the job done. Okay, that's number 6. Number 7 is to be able to use clear and concise language that's accessible to a broad audience. We've already been over that, right? But it bears repeating, right? Elegant writing, saying the most with the least. You do not need to go into 40 pages of detail if at the end of the day, they're telling you it can be up to 40 pages. That does not mean you need to do that. One thing I love, it's a kind of publication, it's called a brief report. And usually it is way smaller in terms of page count or word count than a regular research article. It's also much more likely to get published because I want you to think about like each article is like a brick. There's usually space between it. What's the journal going to put in there? They put in brief reports. So if you only have 1 or 2 major findings, or if you've got a pilot study, you're wondering what to put in there, brief report, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, that's number 7. Number 8 is adhering to the guidelines and conventions of the target journal. Generally, we either call these author guidelines. I most commonly see them as instructions for authors. This may seem small. We have an entire hour-and-a-half module on exactly how to be able to use instructions for authors to max out your likelihood of getting accepted. We actually did a survey of journal editors-in-chief, an anonymous one, asking them what they think of manuscripts that don't comply with instructions for authors even slightly. And we published the findings in that module. You can take a look. Very interesting. Number 9 is just ensuring that all of your sources are properly cited using the correct citation style. I'm in psychology, so it's APA. Maybe you're in the medical sciences, so it's AMA. Maybe you're in the humanities. It's more likely something like, MLA, for example, or Chicago. God bless. Get it done, right? Number 10 is to be able to seek feedback from peers and experts to improve the quality of your article. This does not just mean other people in your grad cohort or individuals who are, your supervisor course, but other experts at your university. Very much, if there are people who you'd love to be able to work with in the future and their work has been very influential and you're not sure if you want to include them as a formal peer reviewer or not, if you want them to be a peer reviewer, don't send it to them. It would be a conflict of interest to send it to them and then for them to also do the peer review for you. Don't do that. But if it's something where, they wouldn't be right for a peer reviewer for this article, but maybe something else, and you know that this generally, would be of interest to them, write to them. There's literally an email template that we give you in Publication Academy that provides you with that. So be sure to check it out. Number 11 is to be able to proofread carefully for typos, grammatical errors, and clarity. There's a module in Publication Academy which is fundamentals of the publication writing process. We give you loads of free tools that you can use to be able to identify things like typos, grammatical errors, and how to be able to, clarify your work, right? Increase the clarity. So I recommend to do that. But proofreading, I mean, it sounds like 101. You would be shocked how few people do it. And last but not least, number 12 is to consider the importance and relevance of the work for the field, but also for the wider public. I will tell you from experience, yes, usually you are talking to other researchers, practitioners, and maybe even policymakers. But for the wider public, those implications, oftentimes we're not thinking about that. But if you want to publish something like a press release or give a community town hall, these methods of rapid research dissemination, especially if you want to work with a journalist afterwards and they can help you get the word out, you must consider the importance and relevance of the work for the wider public. So make sure to do that. All right, y'all, that's what I've got for you today. I hope that these 12 tips were helpful, and I hope that I've somewhat convinced you to get a 7-day free trial to Publication Academy down here. I love you all, though. Thank you for watching. You know that I'm in your corner, and you know that I never BS you and that I care about you. If you have questions, please put them down in the comments. Even if you just want to say hi, even years after publishing these videos, I read every single comment on every single video because I love you. So I appreciate you. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.